protests have been growing in Myanmar against a military coup, which ousted long-time democracy activist and the country's leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. At first, the protests were limited to the banging of pots and pans and other forms of civil disobedience. But recently, more people have been demonstrating in the streets, holding rallies, facing off with police. And the intensified protests have been met with an intensified crackdown. The first incidents of bloodshed came just over a week after the generals had taken control, on Tuesday, February 9th. A young female protester who was attending a demonstration in the capital city of Naypyidaw was shot in the head with a live bullet during clashes with police. She collapsed to the ground next to her sister. The 20-year-old was taken to a local hospital and put on life support, but she died 10 days later. 2 weeks after this, another violent crackdown. While nationwide protests were taking place on Saturday, February 20th, tensions escalated in Mandalay, Myanmar's second largest city. Police faced off with striking shipyard workers and other demonstrators. As the situation escalated, police responded with tear gas and gunfire. 2 men reportedly died from gunshot wounds, and witnesses said they found bullet cartridges at the scene. The following weekend, protests continued across the country. Footage from Myanmar's largest city, Yangon, showed people blocking roads with barricades and confronting police. Meanwhile, in the southeastern city of Dawei, tense standoffs occurred between those still in the streets and armed officers. At least 18 protesters are known to have been killed. And just days later, on Tuesday, March 3rd, with rallies and marches showing no signs of stopping, came the bloodiest day since the military coup. Videos from across the country showed familiar scenes, protesters making their way into the streets amid a deadly show of military force. One piece of footage shows a soldier firing at a resident filming from their balcony. Scenes of chaos, gunfire was common in many of the videos that have emerged. The result, reports of 38 deaths in a single day. Footage later showed soldiers dragging bodies off the streets. Information and evidence that's been corroborated by the UN Human Rights Office shows at least 54 people have been killed since the military coup, and at least 1,700 people have been arrested and detained in relation to the protests or political activity, including members of Myanmar's parliament, election officials, teachers, healthcare workers, journalists, and monks. These numbers are conservative, and the true figure is likely higher.
Myanmar's military must stop murdering and jailing protesters. It is utterly abhorrent that security forces are firing live ammunition against peaceful protesters across the country.
Despite the violence, protesters have continued to take to the streets, and while the international community has offered condemnation, the military has downplayed its actions and continued to justify the takeover with claims of mass voter fraud in Myanmar's 2020 election.